जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी। जय गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी। जय गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे। हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय प्रभुपादा श्रील प्रभुपादा श्रील प्रभुपादा श्रील प्रभुपादा। निदान जयगौर सीतानाथ प्रेमानंद। श्रील प्रभुपाद की श्री राधा पार्षद गौनताय सीताराम लक्ष्मण मान प्रहलाद सिंह विश्वदा दामोदर की निधान गौर सीतानाथ प्रेमानंदे। Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Gaurachandraya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Gurun Sri Udapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangcha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lilita Sri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindubhyo vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvichesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna. So we welcome you all to this very special class. Special class because any reason? Anybody knows why it's a special class? Because we are glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. That is why it's a special class. And there is no reason it should be different every day. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. We have many festivals today. At least 2 festivals, 3 festivals. One festival is of course Shravanotsav of Srimad Bhagavatam. If we speak from the purports of the Acharyas. So I seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas that I may speak from the scriptures as per the commentaries of the Acharyas for your pleasure and for my purification. Srila Prabhupada ki. We will discuss a little bit from the Hamsa Gukhya prayers, continuing with the Bhagavatam shlokas, that is Canto 6, Chapter 4, verse 24. We will speak a little bit about eclipse, because today is an eclipse. We will speak from the Shastric aspect of it. I was told to speak a little bit yesterday. And about 5 minutes back I have been instructed that we should also discuss a little bit about the Damodar Leela a little bit, because today is the day, as per the Vaishnava calendar, that there is Deepavali, and so we'll speak a little bit about Damodar Leela, which happened on the same day as per Acharyas. We'll speak from the 6th canto right now. Nayasya sakyam purusho vaiti sakyuho सखावसन् संवसतः पुरेऽस्मिन् गुणो यथा गुणिनो व्यक्तदृष्टे तस्मै महेशाय नमस्करोमि न यस्य सख्यं पुरुषो वैति सख्युः सखावसन् संवसतः पुरेऽस्मिन् गुणो यथा गुणिनो व्यक्तदृष्टे तस्मै महेशाय नमस्करोमि न यस्य सख्यं पुरुषो वैति सख्युः सखावसन् संवसतः पुरेऽस्मिन् गुणो यथा गुणिनो व्यक्तदृष्टे तस्मै महेशाय नमस्करोमि प्रभु जी Vaishnavis, mothers. Thank you. Thank you. Nayasya sakyam purusho vaiti sakyus sakha vasan samvasatah puresmin guno yadha gunino vyakta drishtes tasmai maheshaya namaskaromi. Word synonyms, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and our most preeminent Shiksha Guru, Srila Prabhupada ki. Kindly repeat after me the word by word synonyms. Na, not. Yasya, whose. Sakhyam, fraternity. Purushaha, the living entity. Avaiti, knows. Sakyuhu, of the supreme friend. Sakha, the friend. Vasan, living. Samvasataha, of the one living with. Pure, in the body. Asmin, this. Gunaha, the object of sense perception. Yatha, just like. Guninaha, of its respective sense organ. Vyakta drishte, who oversees the material manifestation. Tasmai, unto him. Maha Ishaya, unto the Supreme Controller. Namaskaromi, I offer my obeisances. Kindly repeat after me the translation. As the sense objects, that is form, taste, touch, smell, and sound, cannot understand how the senses perceive them, so the conditioned soul, although residing in his body, along with the super soul, cannot understand how the supreme spiritual person, the master of the material creation, directs his senses. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto that supreme person who is the supreme controller. Kindly listen intently to this purport by His Divine Grace. The individual soul and the supreme soul live together within the body. This is confirmed in the Upanishads by the analogy that two friendly birds live in one tree. One bird eating the fruit of the tree and the other simply witnessing and directing. Although the individual living being who is compared to the bird that is eating is sitting with his friend, the Supreme Soul, the individual living being cannot see him. Actually, the Super Soul is directing the workings of his senses in the enjoyment of sense objects. But as these sense objects cannot see the senses, the conditioned soul cannot see the directing soul. The conditioned soul has desires, and the Supreme Soul fulfills them. But the conditioned soul is unable to see the Supreme Soul. Thus, Prajapati Daksha offers his obeisances unto the Supreme Soul, the Super Soul, even though unable to see him. Another example given is that although ordinary citizens work under the direction of the government, they cannot understand how they are being governed or what the government is. In this regard, Madhvacharya quotes the following verse from the Skanda Purana: Yadharajya priyatvam tu bhritya vedena chatmanaha tadha jivona yat sakhyam veti tasmai namostute. As the various servants in the different departments of big establishments cannot see the supreme managing director under whom they are working, the conditioned souls cannot see the supreme friend sitting within their bodies. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme, who is invisible to our material eyes. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So the fifth canto, as we discussed, and Prabhuji had also indicated in his lecture, was about Sthanam, about how the various planets are situated, various places are situated in the universe, so on and so forth. And further on, getting to the sixth canto, the subject matter predominantly, there are 10 subject matters of the Srimad Bhagavatam, but it is not like it is chronological or sequential, or that one canto is about one topic. There could be overlapping subject matters. It's all mentioned in the second canto. So this canto is predominantly about Poshanam. Poshanam means nourishment. Nourishment offered by the Supreme Lord. Of course, we see that devotion itself can offer pushti. Tushtim pushtim shutapayopi grasam. When one performs devotional service, 3 results happen. Just like when one consumes food, 3 things happen. What are those things? The 3 things that are happening are tushti, pushti and kshutapa. Tushti is satisfaction. And similarly in bhakti, the moment we start chanting or performing the process of Shravanam Kirtanam, there is a certain satisfaction that we receive. Otherwise we will not be chanting, we will not be sitting in Bhagavatam. There are better places to sleep. But why are we still coming to the class? But because there is a certain taste that all of us have over a period of time received as a reciprocation from the Lord. Somewhat, tushti, some satisfaction. But food, after you take the first grain, there is some satisfaction. But as you increase the consumption of grains, there is a diminishing marginal utility. It comes down. You don't have the same satisfaction. But bhakti is not like that. Anandamadi vardhanam pratipadam. And the second symptom of eating is pushtim. Pushtim is nourishment. And how do we get the nourishment? By the reciprocation from Krishna and his devotees. Pare Ishanu Bhava. We get some kind of perception about the Supreme Lord being pleased with us, or encouraging us, or like devotees encouraging us. So that is Pare Ishanu Bhava. That keeps us nourished. But above that, one more reason we perform devotion service is Virakti. Virakti is a symptom of advanced devotional service. Vairagya is something that we can develop gradually, a mode of renunciation. But Virakti is normally considered a symptom of Bhava Bhakti. But yet, Virakti is a symptom of Bhakti. So, like we say, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayoja Janayati Ashu Vairagyam. So Vairagyam does develop when very quickly when devotion is performed. So Shutapa, cessation of hunger, is equated to Virakti. So these 3 are the symptoms of Bhakti. And one predominant aspect of the Bhakti is the nourishment that comes from the Bhakti. And this 6th canto is predominantly about Poshanam, the nourishment that is provided by the Supreme Lord, even in situations where there is a deviation from the law of dharma. Some sadhaka, devotee, or aspiring sadhaka even, may be performing activities that may be seemingly deviant from the principle of bhakti, of dharma. But yet the Supreme Lord protects him. And we started the 6th canto with that. How? Whose bhakti was protected? Who was protected? Who was given Poshanam? Ajamila. Ajamila was given Poshanam or Poshana. He was given the nourishment. We also see how Indra was given Poshanam despite killing his guru, Vishwarupa. And how the son of Tvashta, Jai Shri Radha Parthsarthi Vishakha Jai. And how King Chitraketu was provided Poshanam, how he became a pure devotee, Vritrasura. Jai Shri Siddharam Lakshmana Man ki Jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki Jai. So various elements of Poshana coming. And here, in an indirect way, there is Poshana given to even Daksha. Daksha, who had insulted the greatest of the Vaishnavas, Lord Shiva, Vaishnavanam Yathashambhu. And for this, he was insulted. It's a word used by Acharya. He was insulted by getting the head of a goat. One of the names of the Supreme Lord is Aja, he is unborn. Ajopi Sannam Vayatma. But another meaning of Aja is goat. So he got the head of a goat, which is Aja, but his bhakti or his service to the Lord remained Aja. It did not die. It was not born in this sense, in another sense, but it did not die. We cannot really say that it did not die means Aja, as I realized as I was saying, but the fact is that in the Swayambhu Manvantara, when Daksha insulted Lord Shiva, he received this great punishment. And after 5 Manvantaras, when the Chakshusha Manvantara happened, at that time, he meditated on the Supreme Lord. He became the son of the Prachetas and Marisha, born of the Apsara Pramlocha and the Soma or the trees who nourished by him was Marisha, who was given as a wife to the Prachetas. The Prachetas, after their austerities for several years, they burnt the trees which were populating the earth. And so Soma, who was the lord of the forest also and who nourishes all vegetation, came to him and told him that enough, there also your praja. Just like Krishna himself says that aham bija pradapita, the administrator or the king or the government should not consider just the human beings as their subjects or citizens. All living entities, including animals and plants, are also praja. So they told him, and that they were told thus by Soma, and he gave Marisha as their wife, from whom Daksha appeared, Prajapati. And following the instruction of his father or fathers, he started procreating. He was a Prajapati, progenitors or procreators. So he started doing that. And it is mentioned that he was very affectionate to his daughters. So Acharyas mentioned that that means that he did not have a son. And he was not very happy with the fact that though he created several species, they were not expanding the population. So to ensure that, he went for austerities. A place called Aghamarshana in the Vindhya mountains. So he performed Achamana and he started performing severe austerities to please the Lord. And then he chanted the Hamsa Gukhya prayers. Now it is not like Daksha wrote the Hamsa Gukhya prayers. They are already present in the Vedas. He merely repeated those prayers. And so that is also an important lesson for us. If we have to do any important activity, we need mercy of the Supreme Lord and Vaishnavas. Like Srila Prabhupada himself went to Advaita Acharya's temple and other places and he was repeatedly praying as part of his lifetime in preparation. Before he started this wonderful movement called Iskcon, and before that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada also did the same thing. He performed for 10 years, he chanted 10 crore names of the Lord before starting the Gaudiya Math. So austerities are an essential element of undertaking any important service for us. Which is why before every day we undertake service, we go through the austerity of the morning program, chanting, sitting in Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavatam. There are two different austerities. One is sitting in Bhagavatam because of the physical aspect, then the listening aspect, which is a mental and intellectual aspect. So these are all austerities that we undergo so that at least for that day we get to perform our services of at least 8 hours practical service. So here it is clearly mentioned that It's clearly mentioned that Daksha, and apart from the austerities, he gives these wonderful prayers of the Hamsa Gukhya. As part of the prayers, and it is clearly mentioned that in the previous verse itself, that Prabhupada quotes from the Brahma Samhita, Pantastu Koti Shatavatsara Sampragamyo Vayoradhapi Manaso Muni Pungavanam So Apyasti Yat Prabhatasimna Vichintya Tattve Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Despite traveling at the speed of the mind, Vayoradhapi Manaso, even faster than wind and faster than the mind, Muni Pungavanam, Pungava means they are exalted sages. They are not able to understand the Supreme Lord. They are not able to capture him with his mind. Why? Because bhakti mama janati. Only by bhakti can Krishna be known. Any other verse in the Gita which says that only by bhakti can Krishna be known? I just said bhakti mama janati. Any other verse I am asking? Bhaktos me saka cheti, what else? Bhaktya Tvananyaya Shakya. It's very directly mentioned. So it is very, very important that it is only devotion that can get to know the Supreme, get us to know the Supreme Lord. Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto. It is easier for the devotee to understand the Supreme Lord than a non-devotee. But it is also mentioned, Nahite Bhagavan Vikti Navidur Devana Danava. Krishna himself says, nobody can know him easily. Vedaham Samatita, and Krishna knows everything. Or he tells Arjuna that, what does he say? Bahuname Vititane Janmani Tavacha Arjuna, Tanyaham Veta Sarvani Nattam Veta Parantava. You don't know any of the births, I know all the births that we have taken. So Krishna knows everything about us. And Prabhupada gives the example how the government or a king or the chief surveyor knows all the fields or lands or the plots in the country. But the individual landowner may know only about himself, the kshetrajna. You only know about his body. Similarly, the soul will know only about his body, which is the kshetra. So here it is mentioned, part of the body are the senses. And we learn in the Bhagavad Gita, Indriyani Paranya or Indriyabhya Paromana. Above inert matter are the senses. And the sense objects are also inert matter, the dead matter. Above that is the senses, which are also effectively dead matter. But the senses can know the sense objects because they are superior to the sense objects. Which is, what are the sense objects? Form, taste, touch, smell and sound. Above that are the senses which can actually relish those sense objects. But the sense objects cannot relish the senses. They cannot understand the senses because they are inferior to the senses which are above them. Quite similarly, the super soul or the supreme soul is present in the heart. Sarvasya cha aham hridi sannivishto, stays in the region of the heart. Interestingly, in the Gita there is no direct mention of the soul being present in the region of the heart. It's only about the super soul that is mentioned. Ishvara sarva bhutanam and sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. But it is understood from other aspects of the Vedas that the heart, within the region of the heart is the soul and the super soul who directs all activities of the individual soul, including its ability to enjoy with the senses the multiple sense objects. It is mentioned that the soul has a capability to know about all the sense objects, all the senses. It can know about all the elements, the 24 elements that are mentioned, but it cannot know beyond that. It may even know the super soul, Ajna. He can know about him, but he cannot know about the Supreme Lord because he is Ananta. It is mentioned that the moment you try to know the Supreme Lord, his qualities start expanding. Iti drik swalilabhir ananda kunde sagosham nimajjatam akhyapayantam tadiyeshu anveshu bhaktir jitatam puna prematastam shatavriti vante. So it is only by the devotees who are immersed in the pastimes, swalilabhir ananda kunde, within the lake of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And what is mentioned at the end of it? Namo Ananta Leelaya Devaya Tubhyam. Because Krishna is Ananta Leelaya Devaya Tubhyam, he cannot be understood easily. The moment the jiva thinks he has understood, like there is this question posed by atheistic philosophers, that can God create a stone that he cannot lift? It's a question posed by the philosophers, atheistic philosophers. What is the answer? Why? How? Yes, Mukesh. Can God create a stone that he cannot lift? Yeah, why, Mukesh? Tell me. Okay, that is one aspect. God is inconceivable. But, yes. Yes, Prabhupada mentioned this. He can create, because if he were not be able to create, he will not be God. But at the same time, he can lift it also, two reasons. One, because he is God, he can lift it. Why? Because Jiva Goswami says, if you remove inconceivability from Bhagavan, he is no longer Bhagavan. So 2 points. One, the moment Krishna creates a stone he cannot lift, his qualities expand innumerably every moment. Every less than a moment. So by default he is immediately be able to lift it. This is one explanation. Another explanation is, it is perfectly possible for Krishna to create a stone that he cannot lift and also lift it at the same time. That is inconceivability. It is possible for Krishna. Because he is so achintya, his qualities are ananta, advaitam achyutam anadim ananta rupam. So he cannot be known by the jiva, who may know the senses, who know the sense objects. But Anumanta is a super soul, because of whose direction, Samane Vrikshe, there are two birds sitting on a tree. One eats the fruits, which is the jiva, which is Sukha Dukkha, the fruits of sweetness and bitterness, or Sukha Dukkha. He cannot see the friend bird who is directing him to eat those fruits. And at the end of those fruits, he goes to another tree. Just like a soul goes from one body to another on exhausting the karma in that particular body, the super soul travels with him. But the super soul is waiting, when will he look at me? When will he look at me? And that happens by the association of devotees. Finally, one may try to look at the Supreme Lord as a process. So what to speak about the super soul being known by the jiva? He knows that there is a super soul and there is some interaction. That is why you can get Sat and Chit both. Chit is cognizance, Sat is eternity, at the level of Paramatma realization. But bliss is Ananda Kunde Sogosham Nimajjantam. Is available only with the Bhagavan realization. And that Bhagavan no jiva can see or know. He is a supreme super soul. What is the word used here? Maheshaya Namaskaromi. Maheshaya. Now there are two ways in which the word Mahesha can be formed. One is Mahi plus Isha. Mahesha. Mahi means earth. So he can be a king, or it can be even Lord Shiva, who is the Jagat Pita. He is called Mahesha. But there is another word, Devi Mahesha Haridamasu, which is used. But Maheshaya also means Maha Ishaya, the supreme controller. Isha means controller. He is Maha Ishaya, the greatest among the controllers. So because he is the greatest among the controllers, whatever he controls will not be able to know him per se. It is not possible for the controlled to know the controller without the benediction or the mercy of the controller. That is why Prabhupada mentions in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is the controller. We are the what is the word used? Cooperators. We are the cooperators. We can only cooperate with Krishna. We cannot control anything else. We may try. Manashashthan Indriyani Prakristani Karshati. The jiva is trying to control, to exploit the resources of nature by the six senses, including the mind. But he cannot really. Eventually the controller remains Krishna. And so when Krishna decided that he should share the nectar among the Devatas and the Asuras. The Asuras told him that in the churning of the Milky Ocean, they told him the Shirasagara Manthanam, they told him that please Mohini, because they are completely enraptured by Mohini. Mohini she's described as looking like a friend of Lakshmi. She was even more beautiful than Lakshmi, but still explained as a friend of Lakshmi. And she went very close to the Asuras, Upa, went very close. So they thought that she is going to give us the nectar. But she cheated them, because the Asuras told that that you should please divide the nectar justly, meaning with justice. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur says higher than justice is compassion. So compassion was that if it goes to the Asuras, they will misuse the nectar, because they are like snakes, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. So Mohini Murti decided to give it to the Devatas. Why? It is mentioned that because the Devatas are tasting the nectar of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, therefore they became eligible to taste the nectar. That was Amrita. It was more logical for them. And it is mentioned by the Acharyas that I forgot this point. This is very important. I thought I'll share this. Yeah. There are 6 reasons where the demons kept silent. The demons were silent when Mohini Murti was dividing the nectar to the Devatas. The 6 reasons are given. One is that there was an agreement. The agreement was that Mohini Murti will divide and she will divide it justly. So that first part was the agreement. The second reason was that there was affection for Mohini Murti. Who would not be affectionate to the most exalted beauty forever, before whom all material beauty pales in insignificance? The third was fear of quarreling with a woman. They thought Mohini Murti was another woman. If we quarrel with her, there will be a problem. So they didn't want to quarrel with her. And then there was attachment to her also. And apart from that, there was a fear of losing her. Fear of losing Mohini. She was never theirs, but still they were worried. And above all that, they had great respect for her. So the Asuras, they did not object. They kept quiet. So Mohini Murti quietly went. She said, these weak Devatas, I will give them some Amrita. Then I will come to you strong heroes. So they said, oh, we are heroes. And so then she served them nectar. And she completed the nectar. But it is mentioned that Devalinga pratichanna swarbhanur deva samsadi pravishta somama piba chandrarkabhyam cha suchitaha. Rahu, disguised as a devata, entered the line or the phalanx of the devatas and he sat in between Surya and Chandra. It's mentioned here. Chandrarkabhyam, both of them. But they were scared of Rahu. Rahu is the son of Simhika, serpent. He's a demon. Anybody knows who is Simhika? Who remembers? Simhika. She gobbled up Hanuman. That's Simhika. I don't know if it's the same Simhika or same Kalpa, but we may understand that Rahu is the son of Simhika. Simhika Nandana. There is a mantra also. You have to chant his mantra also. Some people do that. Karmakanda is do at the end of Grahana. They offer glories to Rahu. Of course, in the Navagraha Stotra also, there is Rahu is also glorified. Rahu, Ketu both are glorified. But Rahu, he went and sat in there. But they recognized him as he sat down. Surya and Chandra. They recognized. But they were scared. So what did they do? They just raised their eyebrows. Just to indicate. This is Rahu. He's not a Devata. And it is immediately mentioned. Chakrena kshuradharena jahara pibatas shiraha haris tasya kabandhastu sudaya plavito apatat. So his head was cut off by Sudarshana Chakra. By whom? Who cut off the head of Rahu? No. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says it is Ajita, the expansion of the Lord who was helping the demigods in the churning of the ocean. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says it is Ajita who cut off Rahu's head with the conventional. There are many indications that there is Mohini Murti, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that it is Ajita who was helping. There were many incarnations in the Kshetrasagara Mantana. The Mohini Murti appeared, there was Dhanvantari, there is Sahasra Shirsha who was on top of the Mandara, there was Kurma at the bottom, there was Ajita helping the Devatas. But this Ajita, Ye Prayasa Ajita Jitopisita Istrilokyam, this Ajita. Yeah, so many incarnations at the same time. In the 1,000 names of Vishnu, Ajita comes. Apara Ajita Sarvasaha Niyanta Niyamoyamaha. So Ajita was there, and Ajita cut off the head of Rahu. And the part that was not immortal fell off. It is mentioned here. So therefore, Brahma, he made Rahu's head into a Devata, and he established it among the planets. So that is what happened that is how Rahu became a planet. And Rahu, because of this incident, developed enmity with Surya and Chandra, because they were the ones who kind of showed him up. Now in the 5th canto, there is a mention of the Dhruvaloka, which is 39 lakh yojanas. 1 yojana is equal to 8 miles or 12.5 kilometers. 39 lakh yojanas above the earth, which is like a Vaikuntha planet. But apart from that, above the earth is the sun planet, and above the sun planet is Rahu, that is also being described. There is a Shishumara Varsha, with the zodiac belt is described. It is in the shape of a dolphin. So, in the dolphin, there are various planets are situated on the zodiac belt. The sun is on the chest, and the moon is on the mind. Even in the Vishwarupa, the moon is in the mind. Chandrama Manasa. So it is mentioned. Chaksho Suryo Ajayata Mukhadindras Chagnischa. That's how it's mentioned. Chandrama Manaso Jataha. So it's come from the mind of the Supreme Person, the Virata Purusha. But in the Shishumara Varsha also, the moon is situated on the mind. That is why they say the moon can influence the mind. Moon signs are generally disturbed. Cancer and all that. I am Cancer. So disturbed people. So on the neck of the Shishumara is Rahu. That is the location of Rahu. Now, when the lower planets are described, it is mentioned that from the sun to Dhruvaloka is 38 lakh yojanas. That is the distance between the sun and the Dhruvaloka. And what is mentioned here, that the earth is 100,000 yojanas from the sun. That is the distance. The earth is 100,000 yojanas from the sun. 10,000 yojanas below the sun is who? Rahu. That is what's mentioned. And this Rahu, it is mentioned here that the sun globe measures 10,000 yojanas, the moon planet measures 20,000 yojanas, and what is the measurement of Rahu? It is 30,000 yojanas. So it gets close, Rahu gets close to sun, but he is not able to gobble him up, because the moment he comes, it is mentioned that Tan Nishamyo Bhayatrapi Bhagavata Rakshanaya Prayuktam. To protect the Surya, what happens? Sudarshanam Nama Bhagavatam Dayitam Astram Tat Tejasa Durvisaham. Rahu cannot handle the heat of the Sudarshana Chakra. Sudarshanaya Vidmahe Mahajwalaya Dhimahi Tannas Chakra Prachodayat. He is Mahajwala, most blazing weapon. So Rahu cannot handle his heat. So just for a period of, it is generally mentioned, for a muhurta, like every full moon and new moon, Rahu chases sun and the moon. But the eclipse occurs, it's clearly mentioned, that generally for a muhurta, actually speaking, although we say there's a longer time, when we mention as per the Bhagavatam, actual eclipse is only for a muhurta, 48 minutes. And Rahu, he flees to a distant place, he's scared. He's scared of the Sudarsana Chakra. Therefore he runs away. So actually speaking, it is not like Rahu eats up the sun and after some time somebody comes and opens his mouth. No. Rahu cannot gobble up Surya or Chandra. The Sudarsana Chakra makes him disappear. And that is clearly Poshanam, how the Supreme Lord protects the sun also. That is also Poshanam. Although this is in the 5th canto, he protects the sun and the moon by the fact that they are protected from Rahu. Poshanam, nourishment is provided, shelter is provided. And when Mother Yashoda tried to bind Lord Damodar, Dama Udara, not just the sun, moon and Rahu, all the planets, everything, they go into the stomach of the Supreme Lord, really speaking. Udara, everything is located in the Udara of the Supreme Lord. When that Udara is attempted to be bound by a Dama or a rope, he becomes Damodara. And every time Mother Yashoda was trying to bind, not just with the rope, she tried to bind with the rope, she couldn't. So all the gopis were laughing. Look at her, she's trying to bind, she's not able to bind. Yashoda was also laughing. What is this? This is so funny. I'm not able to bind it. Later on, all the gopis in Gokula, everybody brought their own pieces of cloth. And all the damas could not bind the udara of Damodara. So what happened finally? Mother Yashoda was literally sweating. In English there is a saying, he was sweating, means he was working very hard. So she was literally sweating. And then the Supreme Lord allowed her to bind him. Why? Stita graiva damodaram bhakti baddham. He can only be bound by devotion. He cannot be bound by anything else. And how does that happen? Does it just happen because I want to bind the Lord? No. Acharyas say, as all of you might have heard several times, and today is the day that Damodar Leela happened, when all the servants of Mother Yashoda were busy. And Mother Yashoda said, today, bahut ho gaya. From now onwards, I will churn the curd for my son. And she did that. And as she was churning, all that, Krishna came to her, he wanted to bring her milk. And Yashodama is actually glorifying him with leelas. She is singing those leelas. And she said, look how intelligent my son is. He is asking me, no, stop this, feed me. She is saying, look how intelligent Krishna is. And then of course the milk tried to spill off into the fire because it wanted to commit suicide. Because the milk wanted to commit suicide because Krishna was consuming the milk from Mother Yashoda. But Mother Yashoda did not leave Krishna for that milk. She left Krishna for that milk because she wanted to make wonderful items out of that milk for Krishna. So you leave Krishna to get Krishna, like Prabhupada did. He left Vrindavan to give Vrindavan, and he got Vrindavan. His disappearance day is also coming up very soon on the 29th. So Mother Yashoda was trying to churn the milk, and at that time Krishna got agitated, got angry. Out of Shuddha Sattva, Acharyas say, like you use Sattvagun to control Rajogun, the white colored Sattvagun represented by the teeth of Krishna bit the red colored Rajogun of the lower lip out of anger, and he broke it with the stone used to pound spices. And later on he walked from there with buttery footprints and fed butter to the monkeys, just like a reciprocation for the Vanaras who helped him in Ramayana. The Lord is feeding them. And Mother Yashoda, to protect Lord Damodara, bound him up. Gopya dadau tvai girdaga siddhamadavattate dashashukalilanjana sambраmaksham bhaktram nini abhaya bhavanaya astitasya sammam vimohyati bhirapi yadbhibeti. Bhirapi yadbhibeti. Fear personified is scared of Krishna, yet that Krishna is scared of Mother Yashoda showing a stick at him. Srila Prabhupada said you should never beat children, but you should show the stick. He said it in the Dallas Gurukul. So she also tried to scare him, and he got scared. And this scene is most bewildering to Mother Kunti and most bewildering to us. the Supreme Lord Damodar, who carries all the planets in his stomach, who showed the Brahmanda in his mouth to his mother, he is getting himself bound on his stomach by his own mother. And this Damodar Leela happened today. And when he pulled the mortar to which he was bound by Mother Yashoda and pulled down the Amalarjuna trees, from there came Nalakuvara and Manigriva, the sons of Kubera, who were cursed by Narada to protect them from the pride coming due to the big birth of being sons of Kubera. And they were delivered by the Lord after 100 years as trees on the courtyard of Nanda. Mercy of Narada. And to reciprocate with Narada's mercy, Krishna said, not for you people, because of your Guru Narada, I am delivering you. And so they prayed. Vani guna anukhatane sravanokatayam hasto jagarma sumanastaupadhayorne smrityam shiratyamanivasa jagat praname drishtisadam darshanestu bhavattanunam. Please may our hands always be serving you. May our ears always hear your glorification. May our mouth always glorify you. May we always offer our heads in obeisance to all this world consisting of individual living entities who have you as the super soul inside them, and you control their senses, which can know the sense objects, and the sense objects cannot know the senses, because it's just like that we don't know the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, which is the shloka for today in the 6th canto. Shri Shri Damodar Leela Mahamotsav ki. I don't know if you can say this, Surya Grahana Mahamotsav, but it is, because on Grahana is an opportunity for us to do Grahana of the holy name. Acharyas say Nama Grahana happens. So Grahana of the holy name, once it hits the tongue, we should keep chanting. So we should also keep chanting today. The Prabhupada did not give very great instructions about the eclipse, except that he mentioned that bathing and chanting the holy name, as was done during the Chandra Grahana of Gaura Purnima, is mentioned. And he also mentioned that he did tell some disciples separately about fasting, but clearly during the period of the eclipse we generally don't eat anything. Rest of the time service should not be affected. It was very clear. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj also said the Iskcon DT Worship Ministry has clearly given a paper on eclipse also as to how devotees should act. I will be forwarding it again on the Brahmachari group if you want, and the congregation group. We can know what is the DT Worship Ministry saying exactly. And it is not important for us, therefore, eclipse, everything is fine. Most important is Nama Grahanam. Whether it is Surya Grahanam or Chandra Grahanam, there should be Nama Grahanam. And Prasada Grahanam is optional, but not just for the sake of our sense enjoyment, but for our preaching to go on. There is the same mode for all festivals, including Ekadashi, Vishnu Tattva appearance, etc. And that should be the greater principle. And the 2 inches which could not bind Lord Damodara represent endeavor and mercy. So our endeavor is to chant the holy name, and the mercy will come in the form of Krishna's pleasure for us, for our austerities. Srila Prabhupada ki. I've gone beyond time by 5 minutes. I beg forgiveness, because this topic came just as I sat on the Vyasasana, so I had to discuss this topic. So, does anybody have we can take one question, and after that Prabhuji can speak. Yes?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So you say that super soul is in heart, but still we do bad activities. Why?
Because super soul is Upadrashta and Anumanta. Upadrashta means he advises you what you should do, depending on how well you hear him. The government gives you a license to drive, but it gives you a license to drive on the road, but you drive the vehicle on the footpath and cause an accident. Is it a mistake of the government or you? So the super soul tells you what to do and what not to do. If you want to listen to him, great. If you don't want to listen to him, still without his permission you cannot. So he is Anumanta, theek hai beta, kar lo. But doesn't mean that it is a super soul who is doing it. He is permitting you because your desire is intense. Your desire to be independent of Krishna is so intense that the super soul permits. Okay, fine. So that's what happens. Okay?
How we know that super soul is speaking?
If anything, it helps you in your Krishna consciousness. Be very clear. If you get up in the morning and a voice comes in your mind that yesterday we slept at 3 o'clock, so today I should rest the body, because the GPC has passed a resolution that after 11 o'clock it is okay to rest, and you don't come for Mangalarati, it means it is your mind. It is not a super soul. If you get a thought that no matter, Prabhupada says, even if you are dying, crawl to Mangalarti, therefore I will go. Marunga, mitunga, jhukunga nahi. I will try and chant my rounds even if I am struggling. Then there is a super soul. And how do we know the difference? We will know the difference when we can check with Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Whether if you have to choose between two Krishna conscious thoughts, like this is almost Krishna conscious thought, but there could be really Krishna conscious thought. Should I fast? Should I not fast? Both are useful. So check with Guru, Sadhu, Shastra and do what is good for you. Prabhupada gave instructions to disciples which was relevant for them through the letters. But what is mentioned in the book is the basis. In the books, nowhere has he mentioned that Iskcon devotees should not do anything on eclipse. Even if you have to preach, we have to preach. That's the point. If you are working outside, you will go to office. You won't say take leave because of eclipse, even if you are an initiated devotee. So why are you coming up with these excuses for Iskcon? You want to say something, Prabhu? Apne haath kiya tha.
Yes. Srila Prabhupada got one appointment to meet a big personality. To see it, Prabhupada said, his secretary, you should ready, you shave head and shaving and come with me to meet that personality.
Yes.
So he said, Prabhupada, today is Ekadasi. The Ekadasi we can't save. For preaching, you can save.
Yes.
Prabhupada said, because Ekadasi, any festival,
Yes.
preaching should not stop.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Ravi. This is true. Prabhupada said you can even shave on Ekadashi if it is to preach. And it is also that at one place he said, even if you have to eat meat for preaching, you can. That doesn't mean you eat meat. But exceptional circumstances. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said the same thing. That even if you have to eat grains and go out and preach on an Ekadashi, do it. But preach, don't stop preaching. So there is a higher principle. But let us not misuse the name of preaching and not do austerities. At least chant more rounds. If your services will be affected, don't need to fast. But if you can fast, there's nothing wrong. It is not like you should not fast also. If you have to fast, it's fine. But your services should not get affected. That's a higher principle. Yes. Higher principle is preaching is the essence. Not fasting is the essence. Prabhu.
हरे कृष्णा। तो ऋषि कुमार प्रभु को बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूँ कि आज के दिन जो अमावस्या है उसके दिन जो दामोदर बंधन लीला हुई उसकी चर्चा की। और मैं हमेशा जितनी बार भी मैंने इसकी चर्चा की, इस महीने में कई बार मैंने चर्चा की अलग अलग प्रवचनों में, और हर बार मैंने ये बात बताई कि लीला अमावस्या के दिन हुई थी, लेकिन आज के दिन में भूला हुआ था। जब उन्होंने कहा कि आज के दिन हुई थी तो मुझे याद आए, तो हमेशा मैं बताता हूँ कि अमावस्या के दिन हुई थी लीला, आज के दिन में भूला हुआ था।
सिखाया
वैसे तो क्या है कि इसके दिन, आज के दिन जो है दामोदर लीला का ही मतलब अधिक से अधिक चर्चा होनी चाहिए थी, तो श्लोक न लिया जाता, दामोदर बंधन लीला, उखड़ बंधन लीला का ही मतलब पूरा प्रवचन होता तो ज़्यादा उपयुक्त होता। ये आज के दिन जो अमावस्या कार्तिक की अमावस्या है, तो कार्तिक अमावस्या ये महीने का बिल्कुल बीच का दिन होता है। तो महीने की बिल्कुल बीच के दिन में भगवान ने लीला की थी, और इसका जो है स्मरण पूरे महीने किया जाता है। सेंट्रल पॉइंट पूरे महीने का, कार्तिक के महीने का बिल्कुल सेंटर आज है अमावस्या के दिन। तो इसमें एक पॉइंट में और बताना चाहता हूँ कि लीला तो बहुत विस्तृत है, लेकिन एक बिंदु पर मैं चर्चा करना चाहता हूँ कि जब भगवान ने वृक्षों को गिराया, वृक्ष गिरे धड़ाम से, इतनी तेज आवाज हुई, बहुत तेज आवाज हुई है, और उनसे जो है वो नरकुबर मणिगिरी प्रकट हुए और उनको दिव्य शरीर प्राप्त हो गया। वृक्ष की योनि से उनका उद्धार हो गया। उन्होंने स्तुति की, भगवान की स्तुति की, प्रणाम की, वंदना की, और आज्ञा लेकर के फिर उत्तर दिशा की ओर चले गए। और फिर भागवत में ये भी बड़ी है कि जैसे ही आवाज इतना जो है वृक्षों की गिरने की आवाज हुई, सब बरसात आ गए वहां, और वो कहे क्या हुआ, कैसे हुआ, क्या हुआ, कैसे हुआ, ये वृक्ष कैसे गिरे, और कोई समझ नहीं पा रहे हैं। तो प्रश्न ये उठता है कि इतनी तुरंत अगर ब्रजवासी आए वृक्षों के गिरने से, तो जो है ब्रजवासियों ने क्यों नहीं देखा नीलकुबर मणिग्रीव जो निकले वृक्षों से और भगवान की स्तुति की प्रार्थना की? तो ये जो प्रश्न है ये मतलब बना रहेगा। जीव गोस्वामी ने जो अपनी गोपाल चंद्र में जो व्याख्या दी है बड़ी मतलब सही व्याख्या है। तो उनका ये कहना है जीव गोस्वामी का कि पूरे ब्रज में इसकी इतनी तेज ध्वनि हुई वृक्षों के गिरने की कि ब्रजवासी सब मूर्छित हो गए और कितने 1 घड़ी तक मूर्छित रहे। 1 घड़ी के अंदर 24 मिनट 24 मिनट में सब ब्रजवासी मूर्छित हुए, इसलिए कोई आए नहीं। और 24 मिनट के अंदर ही जो है वो जो नीलकुबर मुनि वो निकले वृक्ष से स्तुति की प्रार्थना की। 24 मिनट तक पूरा उन्होंने अपना टाइम ले लिया और 24 मिनट के बाद जब उनको होश आया तब वो आए वहां पर कि कैसे गिरा कैसे। और जो बच्चे थे उनको जो है उस आवाज से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा, उन्हें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा। वो तो जो है अपना बिल्कुल ऐसे देख रहे हैं कि एक बड़ा अच्छा जो है एक उत्सव हुआ हो जैसे, उनको तो भय भी नहीं लगा। तो वृक्ष गिरे है ना। और जब ब्रजवासी पूछते कैसे गिरे वृक्ष कैसे गिरे, तो जो बच्चे हैं वो बताते कैसे गिरे, इसमें क्या दिक्कत है कैसे गिरे है, समझ में क्या दिक्कत है। ये किसी ने जो है खींचा उखल को और गिर गए वृक्ष। और हमने तो 2 दिव्य पुरुषों को भी निकलते देखा है जो कृष्ण की जो है परिक्रमा कर रहे थे, स्तुति कर रहे थे, प्रार्थना कर रहे थे, वो तो दिशा में चले गए। तो सब ब्रजवासियों का ये बच्चों का प्रलाप है, बच्चों का प्रलाप है। क्योंकि जब बुद्धि लगाए तो कैसे समझ सकता है कोई व्यक्ति कि ओखल के खींचने से जो है वो वृक्ष गिरेगा, वो छोटे बालक में वृक्ष गिरा कैसे, तो बुद्धि से बिल्कुल बाहर है ये सब बात है। तो एक बिंदु ये है। और फिर श्लोक का जो अर्थ है इसमें एक बड़ी गहराई है कि पुरुष जो है यहाँ जीवात्मा को कहा गया है, पुरुष जीवात्मा को वह कहा गया है। लेकिन गीता में भगवान ने जीवात्मा को प्रकृति कहा है, 7वें अध्याय में प्रकृति कहा है, परा प्रकृति। तो परा प्रकृति है तो भगवान ही परम पुरुष, तो जीवात्मा जो है परा प्रकृति है। तो प्रकृति को जो है परम पुरुष ये भोगते हैं। पुरुष जो है का अर्थ है भोगता है। तो जो भगवान है वो परम पुरुष है, तो जीव भी उनकी एक प्रकृति है। और आह्लादनी प्रकृति जो है राधा रानी में जितनी प्रकृति है तो भगवान ही एकमात्र भोगता है, सब प्रकृतियों के भोगता है भगवान। लेकिन फिर भी यहाँ पुरुष कहा गया है, इस श्लोक में पुरुष पुरुष हो जाती तो क्यों संबसता पुरुष में, पूर्व में निवास करने के कारण जीवात्मा को पुरुष कहा गया है, वैसे पुरुष नहीं। पुरुष शब्द के 2 अर्थ हैं, एक तो पुर में निवास करे तो शरीर रूपी जो पुर है, 9 द्वार वाला पुर है, इसमें निवास करता है तो पुरुष। तो जीवात्मा इस दृष्टि से पुरुष है कि इस शरीर रूपी पुर में निवास करता है। लेकिन वैसे तत्व की दृष्टि से ये पुरुष नहीं है, प्रकृति है। जब पुरुष का अर्थ भोक्ता माना जाता है तो जीवात्मा पुरुष नहीं है, भगवान ही पुरुष है, भोक्ता है वो, है ना। तो हाँ पुरुष शब्द का प्रयोग किया है समवस्था पुरुष में। और भगवान जो है जीव के ऊपर जो नियंत्रण करते हैं तो वो भी उनका जो है एक एंजॉयमेंट है, वो भी जो है भोग रहे हैं जीवात्मा को है। जैसे कि जो इंद्रियां हैं वो विषयों को भोगती हैं, तो विषयों को भोगते हैं, दृष्टि जो नेत्र हैं वो दृश्य को भोगते हैं, रूप भोगते हैं, जो कान है वो शब्द को भोगते हैं। तो इंद्रियां जिस प्रकार से विषयों को भोगती हैं उसी प्रकार से भगवान जो है परम पुरुष जो है वो जीवात्मा के हृदय में है और वो भी जीव को भोगते हैं। किस प्रकार से भोगते हैं, वो भी आनंद लेते हैं, माया के द्वारा भ्रमित करते हैं। भ्राम सर्वभूतानि यंत्रारूढ़ माया के द्वारा भ्रमित करते हैं। क्यों भगवान भ्रमित करते हैं कि जीवात्मा चूंकि ईश्वर बनना चाहता है, पुरुष बनना चाहता है, भोक्ता बनना चाहता है, तो वो भोक्ता बनने के लिए और ईश्वर बनने के लिए आवश्यक है कि उसको जो है भ्रमित किया जाए। तो जीवात्मा को जो है भगवान भ्रमित करते हैं, वो सोचता है कि हाँ मैं ईश्वर हूँ, मैं ईश्वर हूँ, है ना। तो भगवान जो है प्रत्येक जीव के ऊपर जो है अपना नियंत्रण करते हैं और उनका जो है आनंद इस प्रकार से ही है कि जो भक्त हैं उनको तो आनंद देते हैं, तो माता यशोदा को भी भगवान ने जो है मतलब अपने नियंत्रण में रखा, और इस प्रकार से माता यशोदा की इंद्रियों को उन्होंने जो है गाइडेंस किया कि माता बांधी कृष्ण को। तो ये भी जो है भगवान का भोग है। भगवान जो माता यशोदा को यश देना चाहते हैं कि कृष्ण को उन्होंने बांधा, जो परम पुरुष हैं, जो सबसे बड़े नियंता हैं, तो उनको भी बांधा। तो भगवान का यही एक आनंद है कि माता यशोदा को वो जो है ऐसा यश देना चाहते हैं, है ना। और जितने जीव हैं जो अपराधी हैं, जो भगवान का अपराध करते हैं, भक्तों का अपराध करते हैं, तो उनको भी दंड देते हैं भगवान। तो भगवान जो है उसका भी जो है एक प्रकार से आस्वादन करते हैं। तो भगवान का जो है हर प्रकार से नियंत्रण होता है जीव के ऊपर, और वो गलत दशा में भी जीव को जो है भगवान नियंत्रित करते हैं, क्योंकि जीव जो है ईश्वर बनना चाहता है इस कारण से। तो भगवान हर प्रकार से नियंत्रण करते हैं और इस प्रकार से वो भोगता है। हरे कृष्ण।
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, दामोदर लीला महोत्सव की, दीपावली पर्व महामहोत्सव की, सूर्य ग्रहण महामहोत्सव की, नाम ग्रहण महामहोत्सव की, जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की, निता निता गौर सीतानाथ प्रेमानंदे।